Chapter 11. At 10 in the morning, August 22nd, 1922, Dax was standing on the ramp of the railway depot in Conifer Cliffs when the train from the east slowed and stopped. He waited, looking both ways for the girl who had traveled from Chicago to Conifer Cliffs to marry him. Finally, he saw her get off 7 cars back and ran to greet her. "I am so glad that you are finally here. I think of you all the time. I want to be with you from now on. I'm never going to let you out of my sight again." He kissed her cheek. "Me too." Polly hugged him. "I have many surprises for you. I hope you like them all," Dax said. "I'm sure I will," Polly replied, never imagining how extensive the surprises would be. The two embraced, both feeling how much they had missed each other. "These are friends I met on the train, Marta and Rennie. They're on their honeymoon and looking for a place to build a nest." "Yes," Marta giggled. "Polly said you already have your nest built, and you're just waiting for your mate." "Something like that," Dax replied, extending his hand. "Do you need a ride to the hotel?" "That would be great," Rennie replied gratefully. Dax grabbed Polly's suitcases. "There are many more people getting on the train than those getting off," Dax noted. "The drought here has broken a lot of farmers who came here to grow wheat. Now the wheat land is turning into grazing land, and all the farmers are leaving." "Interesting," Rennie said, watching an endless line boarding the train. As Dax loaded their bags into the car, Polly gasped, "Oh my God, your duffel bag is exactly like the one the bank robbers made me stuff money in when they robbed the bank. I suppose some company made thousands of these duffels." Rennie gulped. "I think he's right. I've seen them before," Dax added, knowing he needed to destroy the bags under his house immediately. "I suppose," Polly said, looking at the bag, remembering the horror of having a gun pointed at her as she stuffed bills into an identical bag. "Nice car you have, Dax," Marta noticed. "Thanks," Dax answered. "I bought it with my winnings from the U.S. Open in Skokie to give Polly a ride home. I had to do something so I could get to know her." "You would have bought the car anyway," Polly said, smiling at him. "A guy does a lot to land a pretty girl," Rennie said, looking fondly at Marta. "It took me 10 years to land this one." "You're pretty slow, Rennie. I've only spent a week with Polly, and I hope she will marry me before the sun sets." Dax gazed lovingly at Polly. "Watch the road, Dax. You almost ran over that chicken," Polly laughed. "I wonder how many things get run over while guys look at girls," Rennie jested. "I'm just glad I'm the girl and not the chicken," Marta chuckled. "Yeah, I'm glad I didn't marry a chicken," Rennie laughed. "This sounds like a busload of laughing Irishmen," Dax grinned. "I haven't had a good laugh since I left Ireland. Doesn't seem like anybody else has a good sense of humor, but it's just bred into the Irish. It would be a hell of a note if we couldn't laugh daily. I hope we will always have something to laugh about. I'm glad to get out of that Chicago stockyard where everyone is just getting by, and no one has time to smile," Rennie said. "I went by that stockyard once. It stunk to high heaven," Dax replied. "Yeah, it does," Rennie agreed. "The owners say it smells like money. I only fed the stock. I have never worked in the meat packing part, but being near that place is bad enough. But it did support our families for many years. Thank God for that. Here's your hotel, and there's Dyson's Cafe. We can get together later if you'd like, but now I'm going to show Polly her new house." Rennie and Marta stepped out in front of the hotel and said their goodbyes. Dax drove the short distance to his house. "This is going to be our home?" Polly gasped. "It is our home," Dax replied proudly as he helped her out of the car, grabbed her bag, and walked her up the stone sidewalk to the front door of the brown brick Victorian house. He set her suitcase on the porch, opened the door, picked her up, and carried her into the foyer. "We need to hurry to the courthouse and get a marriage license. I have a preacher waiting to marry us as soon as we can get there." He ushered her up the spiral staircase from the great room to the master bedroom. "Since we will be married, we can stay together here tonight, and every night from now on." Dax squeezed her close. "Why don't you take a hot bath and put on your best clothes, and let's go get married. You can invite your new friends if you'd like. I think I like them. You certainly are full of surprises, Mr. MC Catron. Polly kissed his cheek. I have the prettiest girl and the nicest house in town, he replied, kissing her lips. Get ready to get married, sweetheart. I have been without you for too long, and I want you to be my wife so I can have the part of you that I have not been able to have. The part that no one has had. The part I saved, just for my husband. She kissed and rubbed her nose against his. Now get out of here so I can clean up. I am anxious to marry you too, honey. This is the last time I will have leave while you bathe. From now on, we can do everything together, Dax said, trying to touch her breasts. Don't, Dax. Not until the preacher says I am your wife. Then you can have whatever you want. Okay, honey, put on your nicest dress. One I can take off easily. Dax gestured as he turned and left the room. I won't be long. I want you as much as you want me. Her words followed him into the hallway. Dax couldn't sit or wait. He was on a mission he wanted to finish. He was glad the train arrived in the morning, so they had the whole day to tie the knot. He walked across the street for a brief conversation with Fred Larson, who was finalizing the bank's business arrangements so it could open. I want to run a very conservative banking business. I want to create a place for locals to borrow small sums of money that they can repay, possibly even by working on my ranch. The only larger loans I will be willing to make are on secured land that I would want to own, and I would not loan more than half of its value, Dax explained. I think that's sound business. The former owner thought he would make a killing collecting interest, so he made too many bad loans. No one could make their payments when the drought came, and he lost everything. I know you are interested in owning land, which will make settling any loans that go south a lot easier, Fred agreed. My bride may be ready to go to the courthouse for a marriage license. I may need you to be a witness, Fred, Dax asked hopefully. Just let me know. I'll be here until 5. Fred smiled. Dax ambled across the street to find Polly dressed in a poofy, floral dress. I didn't know if I could find a wedding dress in Conifer Cliffs, so I bought one in Chicago before I left, Polly smiled. I'll come home and put it on later. I guess I'd better put on the suit I bought in Skokie, the one I was wearing when we met, Dax hollered, running up the staircase. In 5 minutes, he returned down the stairs dressed, ready to escort his bride to the courthouse to pick up their marriage license. It was noon when Dax and Polly walked out of the courthouse, marriage license in hand, and a ceremony planned for 7:30 that evening. They walked to the hotel to tell Polly's friends, Marta and Rennie, then headed to Dyson's cafe for lunch. Dax asked Tom Dyson to cook a wedding feast and serve it across the street in the churchyard. Dax returned to the bank with Polly. Fred, this is my wife in a few hours. Could you close the bank and get John and Elaine Smith? Also, could you stop by and invite Jim Ballard, the Dickinsons, Langfords, Websters, and Davis family to attend our church wedding at 7:30 this evening? You asked this man to close his bank and help organize our wedding, Polly questioned. It's not my bank, ma'am. It's your husband's bank, Fred explained. I am only his employee. You certainly are full of surprises, Mr. MC Catron, Polly exclaimed, looking at Dax, baffled. I haven't had time to tell you everything, Miss O'Reilly, Dax replied, squeezing her hand and winking. I knew you had banking experience, so I bought a bank so you would have a place to work. Now you can help Fred teach me about banking. Next, the excited couple entered the bar, invited Roger Martin, and asked him to bring refreshments to the churchyard. By 4 o'clock, everyone Dax knew in Conifer Cliffs was invited. He was excited to throw a big party for everyone he had met since his arrival. Marta helped Polly dress in her wedding gown. Meanwhile, with Roger's help, Dax requisitioned a band for a dance at the bar after the reception dinner. Never had a wedding been put together so quickly in Conifer Cliffs. At 7:30, the small crowd gathered at the church. The preacher's wife played the wedding march on the church organ as Polly walked down the aisle with a bouquet of purple coneflowers that Elaine had picked from her garden. When Dax kissed his bride, the crowd thought he would never stop. After the ceremony, Dax addressed the group. Conifer Cliffs, Montana, is the friendliest place I've ever known. I've only been here briefly, but I have met some great people. I thank you all for coming on such short notice. Polly and I would like you to stay for dinner and dancing at Rogers Bar. This is not just a wedding party. It is a party to welcome my bride to Conifer Cliffs and to thank all of you who have helped me become acquainted with the area since I came here only a month ago. On the lawn, Polly pulled Marta aside. I am so glad you were here for me, Marta. Everything happened so quickly, and there were so many surprises today. I'm so thankful we met on the train. This is so exciting, exclaimed Marta. Rennie and Dax seem to have hit it off, too. I think we'll stay in Conifer Cliffs for a while and see what's going on here. Talk about exciting, Polly interjected. Just a few hours before the wedding, I discovered that my husband owns the bank and the Victorian mansion across the street. Can you imagine? The house is beautiful. I want to have you over soon when things settle down. But for now, I need to have a passionate wedding night. Polly giggled to her friend. Is this your first wedding night? Marta giggled. Yes, I saved everything my whole life for tonight. I just didn't expect it all to be so hurried, Polly exclaimed. I hope it was worth the wait. I know my wait was. I love Rennie so much. We have so much fun just being together. Did I tell you we have been best friends since we were little kids? Now, of course, we are more, a lot more. I don't understand why so many married people fight all the time and don't spend time loving each other, Marta said sincerely. I hope we can be as happy as you and Rennie. Wish me luck, Marta. My God, when I wake up in the morning, I won't be a virgin anymore. Polly blushed. I sure hope not, Marta giggled. Dax introduced Polly to John and Elaine Smith. Yes, I met Elaine and Samantha. They brought the flowers for me. I am glad to meet you, John. Polly smiled. Your husband is the best thing that has happened to this town in a long time, man, John replied. Before he gave my whole family jobs, we didn't know what we were going to do. Really, what does your whole family do for him? Polly asked. John looked at Dax and then at Polly. My boys and I work on his ranch, and Samantha and Elaine keep his house and the bank clean. You have a ranch? Polly asked, looking with surprise at Dax. He has the best ranch anyone could imagine, John said, scratching his stub. The only thing I know about my husband is that he is sure full of surprises. Let's all enjoy this wonderful food brought here by the Dyson family. Dax spoke loudly to the crowd, and he continued to introduce Polly to the community. As the sun set in the west, the party slowly migrated to Rogers Bar, and the dance music began. Dax took Polly onto the floor as the community clapped to the beat. The celebration lasted until the wee hours of the morning when Dax took his bride to the nest he prepared for her. Polly now knew she had landed in a special place in the world, and it seemed as though she had landed there with a very special man. Dax opened his eyes to see the beautiful woman asleep next to him. He propped his head up on his elbow and stared at her. I thank God for all of my recent blessings, he whispered to himself. I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams I could be so lucky. He stared at her. He was mesmerized by her beautiful naked body lying next to him. Her auburn hair was thrown about on the pillow, and the white skin of her shoulders sparkled in the sunlight. He was so thankful she was his wife. Polly's eyes opened slowly. Go back to sleep, sweetheart. You need to rest after your long trip and your big day yesterday, he said softly, stroking her hair. You have the most beautiful smile, he whispered. That's because you make me so happy, she said, kissing his bare shoulder. I never dreamed how good it would feel, and in so many ways. Can I stay around for another day or two? She giggled. Yes, you can. He rolled her onto her back and got on top of her. I hurt Dax. I have to get used to this. As much as I loved our night together, I need to take a little time to heal. That's what you get when you marry a good girl. I'm glad I married a good girl. And thank you for being my good girl. But what do I do with this thing? He asked teasingly, putting her hand on him. We'll figure it out, honey, I promise. She blushed. I think I need another hot bath. I love the big tub. Get ready, and I'll take you out for breakfast at Dyson's. Then we can go for a drive out to the ranch. We can bring Marta and Rennie if you'd like. That sounds like fun. I am so excited to see the ranch, Polly exclaimed. I'll get ready, and we can walk to the hotel and see if Marta and Rennie want to join us for breakfast. Dax nodded his head in agreement. When Polly was ready, Dax grabbed her hand and led her up the boardwalk, 2 blocks to the hotel. As they entered the lobby, Rennie and Marta came down the oak-spindled staircase. Care to have breakfast with us? Polly asked. That would be great. We are hungry, Rennie declared. The foursome found a table in Dyson's where they could look at the street. Nice day for a drive in the country, Dax said. Would you like to join us for a backroad tour of the area? I need to show Polly my ranch and get her familiar with the area. Can't think of anything we would rather do. Maybe we can pack a picnic lunch, Marta said. I know a perfect picnic spot on a hilltop with a great view, Dax said. I think I have found paradise here in Montana. The 2 couples leisurely finished their breakfast and then stopped by the grocery store to pick up lunch supplies. Picnic basket in hand, the group piled into Dax's car and headed to the Smith place. My lord, Rennie exclaimed. What beautiful country this is. I don't think I have ever seen such natural beauty. But I guess that's not saying much from someone who has spent his whole life in Chicago's packing town. Only Ireland is more beautiful, Dax smiled. Yes, it is, Polly seconded. All of Marta's and my grandparents would attest to that, Rennie said. But neither Marta nor I have ever gotten to see it with our own eyes. Ireland has to be the most beautiful place in the world, Dax said. But I don't want to starve, even in such a beautiful place. We are all here in America looking for a better life. I know the Chicago stockyards have provided security for my family. They had enough money to travel from Ireland to America, but we never had enough to escape packing town and find a better life in this country. I hope Marta and I can start something that will make jobs for our families, Rennie said hopefully. Chicago is a terrible place if you're not a crooked politician or part of the mob, Polly said. I came there to be close to my brother. He seems to be doing all right as a caddy for a very successful golfer. I had a good job at the bank, but it's a scary place to be when the banks are getting robbed all the time. Dax chugged the loaded Chevy up the mountain road, the 5 miles to the Smith place. Here comes John and his boys. They had to move the cows to a different pasture this morning, Dax explained, pointing to 3 small figures on horses topping over the horizon. We can wait until John gets here, and he can show us around. He and his boys built everything here. He had some bad luck and lost the place. I have just purchased the property and some adjacent land from the county and hired John to manage the ranch. John lost his arm in the sawmill over there. Dax pointed across the barnyard. How many cows do you have, Dax? Rennie asked. Only 250. The place will run at least 700, but I have more searching to do to find the balance. I want to run Herefords, and I haven't found them all yet. Times have been tough around here, and I think most of the cows have been eaten by hungry farmers. We have found some cows left behind by folks who left the country. They cut their fences so the cows could find feed and water, but most of those cattle aren't good quality stock. I still have to find another 450 head to make my ranching operation efficient. I noticed at the grocery store this morning that it was not very well supplied. I think this community needs a better grocery store, Rennie commented. Yes, I noticed that too, Polly agreed. Yes, we need better supplies of all kinds, especially groceries, Dax said. Everything here is fragmented because of all the people leaving. There are many opportunities to fill in the voids that someone could capitalize on. We need a better grocery store, meat market, hardware store, and livestock auction. All these businesses were wiped out because their customers were unable to pay their bills. It's not that any of these were bad businesses. It's just that no one could pay them the money due. If a guy had a little money and didn't extend credit to anyone, he should make out pretty well. At least that's what I am counting on. I've saved up a little money, Rennie said. I want to invest in a good business here, or at least somewhere out of the Chicago area. My family has been just getting by there for 60 years. Now that I have a little nest egg, I'd like to help get our families out of there. I'd love to start a business where we could make a decent living in a healthy environment away from the corruption of Chicago. We want to get away from the mobsters and the corrupt local government. They call it capitalism. There is nothing wrong with capitalism if it's free of corruption. If you run an honest business out here, do you think you could make it without somebody trying to steal everything from you? I plan on that, Dax said confidently. Maybe the local economy here is small enough that the bad guys won't want to steal it. I don't know, but I suppose I'll find out. The figures of the three men on horses were now much bigger as they rode nearer to the slope above the homestead. I think I got lucky to find this place and the family who built it. Now they can help me build a bigger and better ranch, Dax said. I'm going to treat them as well as I can. I want them to have a good life, as well as Polly and me. I wish I could have worked for someone like you. All the stockyard bosses don't give a damn about anyone but themselves. I always wanted to work in a place where everyone wanted to work together and not get trampled by the greed or arrogance of another, Rennie stated matter-of-factly. Most of my life, I had nothing, so I understand what you are saying, Dax agreed. Now that I have been lucky enough to pull out of poverty, I promised myself I would not participate in making others struggle. I want to give a day's pay for a day's work. I want to make money, but I also want to share it with those who help me make it. I think they will help me more if I help them more. Maybe you can make it possible for some of our countrymen to realize the American dream. So many have come to America for better jobs, yet they have become enslaved and kept in poverty, Polly remarked. I can't help everybody, but I sure don't want to take advantage of anyone. Polly hugged him. I think I found a pretty good manual. She winked at Marta. Sounds like it. Marta winked back. Let's get to know Elaine, Polly suggested. She seemed very nice. Is that the lady who brought you the flowers yesterday? Marta asked. Yeah, that's her over there working in her garden, Polly replied. Let's go talk to her. Hi, Polly. Hi, Marta. Beautiful day, isn't it? Elaine greeted the two women as they walked toward her. Such a piece of heaven you live in, Marta exclaimed. Thank you so much for bringing me the flowers yesterday and helping us with our wedding. I couldn't have done it without your help. You are more than welcome, Polly. I'm pulling all the weeds out of my garden patch. We had to leave here this spring before planting time, and no one has been here to tend to the place since. I want to get everything cleaned up so we can start again. We can't go back in time, but we can plant a garden next spring and enjoy fresh produce throughout the summer, as well as potatoes and onions throughout the winter. Let's go look at John's sawmill, Rennie. Dax pointed toward a big sawdust pile. It looks like this John guy is really talented. Did he build this sawmill and then cut all the lumber for the buildings around here? Rennie asked. Yeah, and he's also good with stock. He's an all-around hand. He and his boys should be appearing from under the swale over there any time now. Dax nodded in the direction where they had been seen in the distance. I'd like to see this sawmill in operation next time he runs it, Rennie said. Yeah, me too, Dax agreed. Maybe John can cut you some lumber to build a house if you are going to stay around. Let's go to the barn and meet up with John. He should be there any minute. I think this is the neatest barnyard I have ever seen. Most places like this are cluttered with wild, old, wrecked farm equipment and junk. Here, it is as neat as a pin, and all the buildings are in perfect repair, Rennie commented, admiring the tidy homestead. Yeah, the other places I bought have poor tar paper shacks and junk piles that need to be cleaned up. It's unfortunate that John got hurt and lost this place, but at least he was able to return here and enjoy all the work he had done. There they come now. Dax and Rennie arrived at the barn as John and his boys tied their horses to the hitching rail. We got the cows all settled and over by the spring on the other side of the ridge. There's good feed over there, and the fences are in good shape. Next time we go there, the calves should be much bigger and fatter. I wish there were a good meat market nearby so we didn't have to ship them so far to market, John remarked to his visitors. This is my friend Rennie. Rennie, this is John, Quinn, and Cole, Dax continued, over the shaking of hands. Rennie here is from a family that worked in the Chicago packing industry for a couple of generations. Maybe he can start a meat market in Conifer Cliffs. What do you think, Rennie? Something to think about, Rennie mused. Before everything around here went south, Old Red Sycamore did well with the local meat market. Like everyone else, he gave out too much credit. He took what little he had left and moved to Oklahoma. Seems like everybody thinks Oklahoma is the place to be these days, John said, loosening his horse's cinch. Sounds like an opportunity, Rennie remarked. Looks like Conifer Cliffs could use a better grocery store too. Ted Nelson down at the grocery store is a good guy. He used to have a thriving business there, but now he's too broke to purchase the inventory he needs to keep it going. If someone had a little money to get him going again, he'd be a good business partner, John said. Let's see if Elaine and Samantha have something cold to drink. It's hot out here. Elaine called from the garden. Would you all like some good spring water? I have mint and honey to stir into it if you like. Everyone nodded. Would you all like to stay for lunch? Elaine added. No, I think John and the boys are hungry after their long morning. We want to go up to that beautiful vista on the hilltop over there for our picnic. Dax pointed toward the mountain. From there, we can look all over the country. We'll finish up our drink and be on our way. Thank you for your hospitality, Elaine. The four got in the Chevrolet and drove slowly, taking in all the views. With Dax's narration, they understood where and how his ranch fit into the landscape of the dry grassy mountains, rocky slopes, and networks of spider web draws that drained the intermittent grazing and wheat land. They drove to the highest point the Chevy could take them and set out their picnic on a natural rock bench Mother Nature had arranged perfectly to enjoy the colors and textures of the panorama set before them. In all my life, I have not been anywhere so peaceful and naturally beautiful. We have to find our own piece of Montana, a place to put down roots and raise a family, Rennie exclaimed, looking at Marta. I couldn't agree more, she replied, resting her head on his shoulder. I have seen it all in detail on horseback, Dax said. It's growing on me, and I want to stay here forever. It's so beautiful. Dax fell silent and thought, I am becoming part of it, and it is becoming part of me. I want to stay here and become one with the dirt until I lie under a rock and become a physical component of the earth I am beginning to love so much. Polly took in the surroundings and felt her husband's passion. Her admiration for him increased tenfold. She knew they had been deliberately brought together to participate in this life, and it was not a random occurrence. They had each other, they had means, and they had a lifetime ahead of them to do good things and prosper in this land of opportunity. The aura of optimism seemed to be contagious. Rennie and Marta knew they would also spend their lives in this alluring topography. The afternoon melted into a memory as the two couples hiked up a draw, exploring the geography and imagining the secrets that the mountains held of long-gone civilizations. Only their imaginations could reveal the stories geological formations had seen, hidden, and sealed for eternity. In this short afternoon outing, Montana attached itself irreversibly to their inner psyches. This would be their home,